What up, though? Welcome back to the World Heavyweights live on Woodward.com. I'm your boy Easy Joe, my guy Mo-Rax.
What up, though?
Young Chris, JB Smooth. Smash that like button, be a friend, tell a friend, and share the stream because we are also joined by legendary Detroit Lion, Herman Moore, number 84. What up, man?
Hey, what up, though?
What up, though?
What's good?
Hey, man, I appreciate you joining us. I guess I kind of want to start with this because obviously you're a legendary wide receiver for the Detroit Lions, and we have a former first-round pick, and Jameson Williams has been under some scrutiny this year. I saw you post something about he's not getting too many short routes, but I feel like we've seen him in a couple slants, a couple bubble screens. Like, what do you think he needs to get going, or is it just him adjusting to the Summer Golf's ducks? Sorry,
no,
unnecessary shot.
You know what, man? I'll be honest with you. I when I put that out there, I know a lot of people were. Not a lot of people. It was I would say 95% positive or whatever, but there's some that may question that they've already done it. And I think you have to repeatedly do certain things. You know, either way, you got to get him going. I think he's such a valuable piece to the offense. One thing I love about him, and to his credit, is the fact that even though he's not getting the touches that he wants, he's blocking downfield. You know how hard it would be to keep a young player focus, but you see his energy when he's out on the perimeter blocking. He's all in. So regardless of who's shining right now, and the fact that he hasn't really gotten off to the start that he wants to get off to, this young man is showing professionalism, in my opinion, in the way in which he's going about handling his business.
Herman, I appreciate you for joining us. First of all, you're a legend, in the Lions, a legend in the city and everything. It's awesome to have you on the show. And sticking with Detroit Lions wide receivers this year, Amon-Ra St. Brown is on a hell of a tear. Like, he's tied for the league lead in 100-yard reception games. He goes out there, feels like he's getting 8 to 10 ball, every day or every week. He's getting 8 to 10 balls. What do you see out of his preparation and his in-game management that makes him such an elite receiver?
Well, one, you got to give a lot of kudos to the fact that this is a young man, again, who works really hard at his craft. The consistency of what he puts in practice and preparation, the offseason, that's really showing through in his consistency and how he plays. I mean, you look at the confidence in which he plays with. Did I think he would turn out to be a number one receiver on this team and be that number one guy that you could build an offense around right out of the bat? I didn't see that because we didn't know what to expect. But now as he's gone through, he's definitely proven that he's a number one receiver. He's that WR1. But also on top of that, his leadership in the way in which he goes out and he just commands presence. Right now, teams are still trying to figure out how to defend him. They're allowing him at times to run kind of free. And to the credit of Ben Johnson and Jared Goff, they're figuring out ways to find him, and they're making sure he stays a part of the offense. One other thing I'll say about St. Brown is this. He goes out and he creates off of the small, short throws, and he turns those into bigger gains. And then when he hits those mid-ranges, he's even more destructive for the defense. So I think he's doing a great job. They're doing a great job of dialing up different various plays for him to get him open because, teams are planning for him. So he's just been a great surprise, and it's great to see that he and Jared Goff are on the same page.
Yeah, Amon-Ra's a dog.
Yeah, he is.
I like his yak ability there, too, a little bit. I guess keep it on track with Detroit Lions wide receivers here. Where do you think Amon-Ra, when all is said and done, do you think he inches close to you and Calvin as a Detroit all-time receiver?
I think there's still work to be done. Everybody's got their I'm actually glad you asked that question because a lot of people will ask, and I'm not going to discount guys like Brett Herman. I'm not going to discount guys like Johnny Morton and those that have put in long-term successful careers. They've been here and they've made some fantastic, meaningful plays for Detroit Lion organization and also for our team. So you never want to just say that you're going to grant someone after a couple years that they're on. I think he's on his path to being able to have great statistical seasons, to be one of those receivers that puts up amazing numbers year after year after year. But ultimately, we all have our own strengths and our weaknesses. And to compare that, there's things I've seen Johnny Morton and Brett Herman and people like that do that I've yet to see him do. And he just hasn't had the time yet, and that being St. Brown, to be able to show just how wide his arsenal is. But I've seen Johnny Morton catch corner routes, slant routes, go the distance, go 90 yards, be able to go over defenders, diving catches, the whole nine. So when we talk about that, production is one thing. I think that's a part of what we do today. But when you start trying to just leapfrog guys, I think that's doing them a disservice. And you let St. Brown have his time and let him create his own legacy. And I think he's well on his way of doing that. And I hope he breaks every record. You think that as a receiver, but ultimately, I'm one of those guys that I never want to forget the people who did it before everyone else, because I think their legacy deserves to be honored as well.
That's a fair point. And I have this question too, because we recently had the discussion: is he a top 10? Well, top 5 receiver was initial discussion, and then we kind of just broke it down and did our rankings of top 10 guys. How do you distinguish guys who have like the actual production versus guys who can go out there and make those amazing catches when you're making those type of rankings? Like, obviously, a Jamar Chase can bring you something like play wise that you can only dream of, versus Amon-Ra having maybe like more yards, more tutties, just because he's more consistent. Like, how do you rank who's better, the guy who has the capability of doing great things, or the guy who actually has the numbers behind it?
I think when you look at it, you got to look at the systems. You have to look at the time and the era. There was, who are the defenders? Who are those All-Pro or Pro Bowl guys that get locked in one-on-one with that guy and chases them around week in and week out? How many teams are planning and their entire defenses are changing because of that person? Well, that's a game changer. That's a playmaker. That's a difference maker. The person who gets a lot of stats and gets a lot of catches and all those things, in which I was in that part. I came in, I just because of my physical size, I was a game changer in the receiver unit because they were all shorter receivers. But then you bring in a guy who can jump 7'2", and he becomes a threat in the red zone. You have to defend that. So it changes your defense just by the sheer fact of my physical stature. A guy like St. Brown, he moves the chains. He's someone that's very dangerous when you're talking about short down and distance, someone who is in critical times when he needs to make catches. But is he going to be the guy that you fear that's going to beat your double and your triple coverage, down the field over guys? It's hard to compare statistics versus physical ability. So when we talk about all-time greats and we talk about who's done what, I think you have to put them in categories. And if it's on a statistical side, it's one thing. If it's on a physical attribute side, I think it's a whole different conversation in terms of who commands what type of attention. So to his credit, like I said, I think he's doing a fantastic job. He's doing what he's supposed to do. He's being a superstar when the team needs him to be a superstar. And you want him to make the most of the opportunities that he's getting. And to that, I say, we as receiver brethren, we want him to be fantastic. I want him to be the number 1 receiver in the NFL for the Detroit Lions.
And, speaking of Pro Bowlers and All Pros, you yourself played in Detroit for 11 years. You got 4 Pro Bowls. You got 3 first-team All Pros. I think this Lions team right now currently, they've got a couple first-team All Pros on it as well. I look at Penei Sewell as the best offensive lineman in the NFL currently. And personally, for me, this is the most complete team I've seen in my lifetime for the Detroit Lions. How do you judge that based on the teams that you played for and the teams you've seen in Detroit?
Well, it's going to come across as when we get into those eras and we start talking about players. And, I just don't think we're going to make cases to say there's these dominant defensive ends, interior linemen, just safeties that are out there and corners that are locked down every time they go across and they're facing the defense. So I think you can't compare it when you start talking about legacy of teams either, because when you look at the run right now, if I said, tell me who you think is the most dominant team in the NFL right now, that teams they're just a juggernaut and they can win and they can beat anyone. I think the Lions are hitting the right note at the right time in a time and space in the NFL where it's up for grabs. The championship and the opportunity to be great as a team is up in the air, whereas you can't always say that when you go look back at how teams were structured and dominated. Their teams, it just not there. You can't compare them, and so it's tough to do that. You just say time and moment, and where are we? Where does this team stack up? This is a very complete team. This is one of the most complete teams that I think the Lions have had in some time, that are competing all at the same time, and the opportunity for them to be great is there at the same time simultaneously. So all the stars are aligning with them. And I think right now, given the way this team has come along, the coaching that Dan Campbell and his staff has put together, and the way in which they've kept this team together and really developed talent, is where you have to really put your stake in the ground and say, that's why this team is so good right now, is because they're solid all the way around in their culture, they're solid in their coaching, they're solid in their front office, they're solid in their fan base, they're solid in their schedule. And I think right now, everything is favoring them to make a really, really good run. So this is extremely exciting as an alum.
Herman, I know you got the Catchman collection, the best blankets in the business. Real quick before we discuss those, what's going on with the blanket coverage for the Detroit Lions? It's been kind of inconsistent this year. I've been I've been firm on defend the Glenn. Every time these people start talking crazy about my guy AG, I kind of step up and I guess give him some context to it. But is there something I'm missing? Do you think there's more to do with the X and O's with the Lions defensive situation, or is it the Joes?
Well, I think it's both. I think they've been caught in some schemes that were not conducive to the offensive set that caused them in some sets. I think there's been just teams that have just been better. They've had better dominant offensive lines going against in a defensive line that just wasn't quite up to being able to overtake them. When you find and you see some of the receiving tandems that they face or some of the receiving units that they face, there's been some exposure in man-to-man coverage. There's been some lapses in coverage from the zone coverage as well. But right now, they're just not a team that can rely on any one unit to go in and just change the complexion of a game. They have to all be clicking on the same cylinders. You want them to have more takeaways, which we saw early. As they have less of those, it's just a great thing that the offense just isn't turning the ball over, which allows them to negate the fact that they're not getting the turnovers defensively. But this is a team, and you talk about Aaron Glenn. I think he can continue to bring them along, but they have to be stronger. There's got to be more stops. They can't be where they are at the back of the pack and giving up points defensively, and also giving up as many yards as they're giving up in total yards. So this is a team that has room to get better. The offense is in the lower front part of the NFL top part in most categories, but right now they can't trade points for points and expect to come away with big wins, especially later when teams are going to get better later in the year.
When it comes to blanket coverage, man, you got the best of business, the Catchman Collection. Can you tell us how this all came about?
So the Catchman Collection is kind of cool, So I was kind of envious. You got Barry Sanders, he's got his running man. Jordan's got his jump man. And by no trying to be a comparison, do I compare with those guys in terms of what their careers were like. But I wanted to have my Catchman Collection. So I came up with different various things that I could do that spoke kind of to the temperature of the fan base, and also the culture of the Detroit Lions fan base and the communities around. So Catchman Collection, we've all been drinking the Kool-Aid. I know if y'all are sitting there thinking about the Lions, y'all been drinking the Kool-Aid. So the drinking the Kool-Aid blankets, which we're giving, with our code, and we'll talk about how they can get to those by putting in their keyword or putting in their word. I
think it was Woodward for today, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's going to be Woodward. So, and they're going to get some nice percentages off on that. But with the drinking it since the 90s, I came in the 90s. But we got people who go always back to the 30s, the 40s, the 50s, the 60s, and so on and so forth, all the way up to the 2010, 2020s. So we want to start that as a culture to say, how long you've been drinking it. We're going to keep sipping on that scissor. We're going to keep drinking that Kool-Aid. But the Catchman Collection is that. The Herman Low Collection is that as well. And we want to make sure that we put those out. So appreciate the support and the love for that. But, man, we're all living the dream right now, and the Lions are sitting in a space that I don't think many of us thought they'd be in. And it's kudos to people like all of you that are coming out, man, and continue to pump the vibe and push it out there. Woodward Sports is doing their thing and making sure that we're all about our sports. So, yeah, let's keep it going.
Definitely. Herman, we appreciate you so much, joining the show. Always amazing to have
Who wins, your Lions or this? Oh, is it a blanket right there?
Oh, yeah, go ahead. You go ahead and keep doing your thing. I'm going to do my thing. Go ahead.
Yeah. I was going to say, who's winning this, Dan Campbell's Detroit Lions or Herman Moore's Detroit Lions?
Yeah, there it is. It's Dan Campbell's Lions on the field, but it's Herman Moore's Detroit Lions Nation.
Let's go, baby. Appreciate you, man.
And we're going to keep doing our thing. So, hey, keep on drinking.
Yes, sir.
I don't know about that. There it is.
I'm giving me one right now. Make sure you guys, I'll put the link in the Woodward Sports chat and also in the bio. We have the Herman Moore. You get the 20% off the blanket right there. Use promo code Woodward. I'm going to get that up there for you guys. And Herman, appreciate you again for joining us, brother.
Thank you so much, Herman.
I appreciate it. Hey, much love, man. I appreciate it.
Thank you, man.
Dude, that's awesome. Awesome to have a legend on. Always amazing.
I got to get Lucas one of those.
Got to get one of those blankets.
No heat in the basement.
Yeah, Lucas is dying in the basement. You got to get him one of those blankets.
That's his Christmas gift. There you go. I'm going to get that link in the chat and also in the description as well.